So in the Ming Dynasty, there was this place called Mount Yunqi, and it was basically a literal death trap.
Oh, completely. Just a total nightmare.
Right. I mean, it was a desolate, ruined wasteland that was completely overrun by man-eating tigers, and these tigers had already killed, dozens of local villagers.
Yeah, people were terrified to even go near it.
Exactly. So the main question we're starting with today is, why would one of the brightest, wealthiest, elite scholars in all of China just abandon a massive fortune, walk directly into that specific tiger-infested ruin, and build a leaky DIY shack right in the middle of it?
It sounds like complete madness from the outside. I mean, totally irrational.
Yeah.
But that specific decision is actually the pivot point of a story that ended up completely reshaping an entire culture. That scholar was Yunqi Zhuhong, pronounced Yunqi Zhuhong.
Right.
And he is widely revered today as Master Lianchi.
And he's just an absolute historical heavyweight. I mean, Master Lianchi essentially set the ultimate enduring standard for Chinese Buddhism.
He really did.
But, looking at the sources for this deep dive, his origin story doesn't follow that comforting linear trajectory of a prodigy just steadily climbing the ranks. It feels much more like a tragic superhero movie.
Yeah, we have an incredibly rich stack of source material to help us understand that path today.
Oh, definitely.
We are looking at the memorial inscriptions written by his contemporary, the legendary monk Han Chun the King.
Yeah.
But to balance out that purely religious perspective, we're also pulling from secular, local historical gazetteers from the Hangzhou area.
Which is so helpful, right? Because it gives us the on-the-ground civic record of his actual impact.
Exactly. And finally, we have his own dense, highly intricate philosophical treatises that unpack the Avatamsaka or Huayan worldview.
So the mission for today is to explore how Master Lianchi went from experiencing just absolute crushing rock bottom to becoming this spiritual megastar.
Yeah.
And more importantly, we want you, the listener, to experience this really profound realization about how he took something as incredibly simple as chanting and engineered it to have a staggeringly epic cosmic backbone.
But to understand that philosophy, we really first have to understand the sheer psychological weight of what this man went through.
Right.
His internal framework was forged in a crucible of loss that, frankly, would have completely broken most people.
Let's start with what he had before he lost it all. He was born into the Shen family in Hangzhou.
Which was a massive deal.
Oh, yeah. In the Ming Dynasty, that meant he was practically royalty. He had the fast track to the absolute highest levels of the imperial bureaucracy. Wealth, power, prestige society looked at him and basically just handed him the keys to the kingdom.
Yet, from a really early age, he exhibited this profound detachment from that entire system.
He just wasn't into it.
Not at all. He wasn't interested in the bureaucratic rat race or, accumulating status. And there's this chilling detail recorded from his youth.
Oh, the desk thing.
Yes. While he was studying for the intensely competitive civil service exams, he actually wrote the phrase, "Birth and death is a great matter," directly on his desk.
Just staring at that every single day. I mean, that is intense. Yeah. You're supposed to be memorizing statecraft and poetry to secure your family's financial dynasty, and instead, you're constantly reminding yourself of the ultimate fragility of human existence.
That phrase was literally a daily meditation on impermanence. And tragically, impermanence was about to completely shatter his world.
Yeah.
In rapid succession, he experienced back-to-back devastation. First, his young wife passed away.
And then his young son. And I really want to pause on that because looking at the historical context of Ming society, losing a son isn't just a horrific personal tragedy.
No, it's a profound societal failure in their eyes.
Exactly. It means the ancestral line is broken. The pressure and the shame mixed with that kind of grief must have been unbearable.
You hit on something crucial there. The Confucian societal structure placed immense weight on family continuity. But the devastation didn't stop there.
No, it didn't.
When he was 27, his father passed away. 4 years later, when he was 31, his mother died.
Oh, man. I mean, it is entirely one thing to philosophize about birth and death when you are a comfortable, elite student.
Right.
It is a completely different reality to have your entire immediate family, your past and your parents, your present and your wife and your future and your son, just completely stripped away by the time you're in your early 30s.
It's suffocating.
The emotional weight of that is unimaginable. How does someone not just give up entirely?
Well, for him, that profound compounding grief acted as the ultimate catalyst. It validated that realization he'd had as a young man staring at his desk.
Because everything he was tethered to was gone.
Exactly. Everything that defined his identity and his obligations in the secular world had dissolved. So at age 32, he made a definitive choice. He had actually remarried by this point, but in a highly emotional, tearful parting, he separated from his second wife.
What really stands out in the sources there is that she didn't bitterly oppose him.
No, she didn't.
She actually embraced his path and eventually became a monastic herself, but he officially shaved his head, became a monk, and began wandering the country.
Just completely let it all go.
Yeah, he goes from the absolute elite circles of Hangzhou to being this solitary guy with a begging bowl. He even nearly died of a severe illness on the road.
He stripped his existence down to the absolute bare minimum. And that wandering is what eventually brought him to Mount Yunqi, which translates to cloud retreat.
Which brings us back to our opening image. Because the name Cloud Retreat sounds like a serene, misty mountain paradise.
It really does.
But the local Hangzhou gazetteers paint a completely different, terrifying picture. This was the ruined, abandoned death trap that was overrun by man-eating tigers.
And this is where the historical records become so fascinating. The civic records confirmed these tigers had killed dozens of people. The area was considered completely uninhabitable.
Right.
And yet, Master Lianchi simply finds a ruined wall, builds a tiny, leaky shack against it, and just sits down to meditate and chant.
Okay, I have to stop you there. Are we supposed to take the whole taming the tigers thing literally?
Wow.
Because as a modern reader, looking at this through a 21st century lens, it is really hard not to view that as purely symbolic myth-making, like religious hagiography designed to make him look like a magical savior.
That is a completely fair pushback. And honestly, that's why looking at multiple sources is so important.
Right.
If we were only reading the religious inscriptions, you could definitely argue it's just pious exaggeration. But the secular gazetteers also record the cessation of tiger attacks after his arrival.
Wow.
Master Lianchi didn't fight the tigers, and he didn't summon guards. The texts say he performed compassionate rituals for them. He extended his practice of deep empathy to the very predators that terrified the region.
So even if we completely strip away the supernatural element, you are still left with a man who is so utterly fearless, so completely grounded in his acceptance of life and death, that he simply doesn't radiate prey energy.
That's a great way to put it. He refuses to meet violence with violence.
Right. And whether you view that as a mystical aura or just extreme psychological groundedness, the local peasants definitely take notice.
Oh, they absolutely take notice, especially when a severe drought hits the region shortly after his arrival.
Yeah, the crops were failing. Right?
Yes, and the villagers were facing mass starvation. So they came to his shack, begging for help, assuming this holy man who survived the tigers must possess some kind of complex weather magic.
But I love his response to them, because he basically just says, I don't know any magic. He doesn't set up an elaborate altar or perform some esoteric theatrical ritual to impress them.
Not at all. He simply told them, I only know how to chant the name of Amitabha Buddha.
And then what did he do?
He walked out into the parched fields, beating a wooden fish, which is just a traditional percussive instrument used to keep rhythm during chanting, and he chanted. And the historical records note that the rains came.
Which is wild. Again, whether you see divine intervention or just historical coincidence, the sociological impact of this is undeniable.
Absolutely.
You have a starving, terrified populace. And here is a man who tamed their greatest fear and seemingly brought the rain, all through a practice that is completely accessible. It wasn't pure magic. It was pure authenticity.
And that authenticity generated a massive wave of grassroots devotion. The locals were so inspired by this man and his beat-up shack that they joyfully rallied together.
They just built it themselves, didn't they?
They did. They started hauling timber up the mountain themselves. They built him a massive, thriving monastery. Now, Yunqi was officially reborn.
Wait, so he basically did a hardcore DIY survival build in a tiger-infested ruin and turned it into a megachurch.
Yes. Exactly that.
It is the ultimate feral-to-influencer pipeline. He goes into the woods to die to the world, and the world beats a path to his door to build him an empire.
It really is.
But what really strikes me in the source is what he did with that massive social influence. He didn't just bask in the glory, he championed a practice called life release.
This is such a crucial part of his legacy. Life release is the practice of saving animals destined for slaughter. He wrote incredibly passionate, persuasive essays on it. He set up designated release ponds at the monastery. He turned compassion for animals into a massive viral movement among everyday commoners.
But this raises a massive logical question for me. Bringing rain and surviving tigers might get people's attention, but convincing an entire society to permanently change their daily habits and cultural practices requires way more than just good vibes.
Oh, absolutely.
He had to give these villagers a reason to believe in what they were doing. What was the actual theological framework he was feeding them?
This is where we transition from his historical actions to the invincible internal logic that powered them. He wasn't just blindly chanting or telling people to be nice.
He had a whole system.
A brilliant one. He constructed a philosophical framework so robust and so intellectually rigorous that it perfectly bridged the gap between the simplest, illiterate commoner and the most elite, highly educated scholar.
Which brings us to his ultimate masterpiece, the text known as the Amitabha Sutra Shuchao. But before we dive into what this text actually says, we need to understand the cultural battlefield it was entering. What was the core tension in Chinese Buddhism at this time?
You had a massive divide. On one side, you had Pure Land Buddhism. This centers on the practice of chanting the name of Amitabha Buddha, which is what is known as the Nembutsu.
Okay.
The goal is to be reborn in the Western Pure Land, which is considered a perfect environment for achieving enlightenment.
And reading between the lines of the history, it seems the elite intellectuals really looked down on this practice, right?
They absolutely sneered at it. The elites viewed Pure Land practice as a fairy tale for the simple-minded.
Like it was just for peasants.
Exactly. They saw it as a superstitious crutch for people who lacked the education to handle real philosophy.
Okay, so if Pure Land was for the peasants, what were the elites practicing?
The elites were obsessed with the Avatamsaka Sutra, also known as Huayan philosophy. This was considered the absolute pinnacle of Buddhist intellectual thought.
And it's super complicated, right?
Incredibly dense. It's highly abstract, and it deals with the fundamental quantum-level nature of reality itself.
So you essentially have this impenetrable wall. Elites doing complex Huayan philosophy, peasants doing simple Pure Land chanting, and just complete mutual misunderstanding between them.
Until Master Lianchi writes his commentary. In the Amitabha Sutra Shuchao, he meticulously and passionately proves that the Pure Land isn't some distant myth.
He bridges the gap.
He does. He argues that the Pure Land is the direct, literal manifestation of the Avatamsaka Sutra's ultimate cosmic truth.
Okay, we need to unpack that ultimate cosmic truth because the sources refer to it as the Dharmatatu of Shi Shi Wu Ai. What exactly does that mean?
Shi Shi Wu Ai translates roughly to the unimpeded interpenetration of all phenomena.
Unimpeded interpenetration.
Yes. It is the realization that everything in the universe is perfectly, flawlessly interconnected. There are no boundaries, no isolated events, and no separation between anything.
I want to make sure I'm grasping the scale of this. If I pick up a pebble off the ground, Huayan philosophy suggests that I am somehow actively connected to a star exploding a billion light years away.
Yes, and it goes even further than that. A classic way Huayan teachers explain this was through the metaphor of Indra's net.
Oh, I've seen that mentioned.
Imagine an infinite net stretching out in every direction across the universe. At every single intersection of the threads, there is a multifaceted jewel.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
If you look closely at any one jewel, you will see every other jewel in the infinite net reflected in its surface.
And the reflections in those reflections contain all the other reflections, just going on forever.
Exactly.
It sounds exactly like modern quantum physics like quantum entanglement, or the holographic universe theory where every individual piece contains the entire image of the whole.
The parallels are striking, aren't they? Shi Shi Wu Ai asserts that the ultimate reality isn't some distant heaven you go to after you die.
It's right here.
The ultimate reality is this breathtaking, infinite web of interconnectedness right here, right now. The vast cosmos and the tiniest speck of dust perfectly interpenetrate each other.
Okay, that is a beautiful, mind-bending philosophy, but I'm putting myself in the shoes of a Ming Dynasty peasant.
Sure.
How does Master Lianchi connect this highly abstract holographic universe theory to the simple act of a villager just chanting Amitabha?
This is where his absolute brilliance shines.
Yeah.
He created a comprehensive theory of Nembutsu, the chanting practice, and he divided it into two categories, phenomenal holding and noumenal holding.
Let me take a swing at explaining how I understand these from the reading, and you tell me if I'm off base here.
Go for it.
Phenomenal holding seems to be the raw, simple act itself. It's chanting Amitabha's name with pure, unyielding, blind faith.
Correct.
Like, you might not understand a single word of Huayan philosophy, but you have absolute trust in the practice.
That is a perfect reading. Phenomenal holding is the practice of the villager. They know they are suffering, and they're gripping this chant as a lifeline with unquestioning devotion.
Then we have noumenal holding, which is clearly for the elite philosopher.
Yes.
This is chanting the name while simultaneously maintaining the deep, complex understanding that your own mind, the Buddha you are chanting to, and the entire infinite universe are fundamentally one and the same.
Exactly.
It is chanting with the active awareness of Indra's net, or Shi Shi Wu Ai.
You've defined them perfectly, but notice how that still sounds like a hierarchy.
Yeah, it totally does. It sounds like the philosopher's doing the advanced version while the peasant is doing the basic version.
Exactly. It still feels like the elite scholar is winning. So where is the unity?
Right, where is it?
The unity is the absolute master stroke of the Amitabha Sutra Shuchao. Master Lianchi proved that because of Shi Shi Wu Ai, because everything perfectly interpenetrates everything else, without exception, the phenomenal is the noumenal.
Wait, because every jewel reflects every other jewel, the simple act of blind faith inherently contains the highest cosmic awareness.
Precisely. If every single action contains the entire universe, then the simple, faithful act of chanting a single name contains the entirety of the most complex cosmic truth.
Wow.
You cannot separate the simple action from the infinite reality it resides in. Therefore, the peasant chanting with pure faith reaches the exact same state of ultimate enlightenment as the scholar who understands the quantum mechanics of the universe.
So chanting is basically like entering a cosmic cheat code or password.
That is a fantastic analogy. How do you mean?
Well, think about logging into a really complex website. You don't need to understand the binary code or the server architecture or the global fiber optic network to access your account.
Right.
You just type in a simple password and you are immediately granted full access to the entire system. Master Lianchi is basically telling these villagers they don't need a PhD in quantum-level Buddhist philosophy. Just by doing the incredibly simple act of chanting with faith, the phenomenal, they completely bypass the limits of the human intellect and directly tap into the ultimate truth of the universe.
He completely democratized enlightenment. He took the highest, most elitist philosophical framework of his era and wielded it to validate and elevate the most common, accessible practice.
That's amazing.
He essentially told the masses, your simple faith is not a superstition. It is the most profound, mathematically perfect expression of reality.
That is a staggering level of compassion. He weaponized elite philosophy to protect the commoner. He gave their daily simple practice this epic, cosmic backbone.
And if we look back at the historical events, this invincible internal logic explains how he tamed tigers, ended droughts, and built a megachurch out of ruins.
It all connects.
When your internal reality is perfectly aligned with the unimpeded interpenetration of all phenomena, your external actions carry an irresistible magnetic weight. He wasn't forcing the world to change to his will. He was simply acting in perfect, harmonious resonance with the way the world actually is. And people couldn't help but be drawn to that.
So bringing this all together, what does Master Lianchi's life mean for us today? I mean, most of us aren't Ming Dynasty elites, and thankfully we aren't facing down man-eating tigers.
Let's hope not.
Right. What is the takeaway for the listener right now?
Well, I think it raises a vital question about how we approach the obstacles in our own lives. We live in an era where we over-intellectualize absolutely everything.
Oh, completely.
We are conditioned to believe that complex problems require equally complex, agonizingly detailed solutions. We get paralyzed by the need to understand every single variable before we take a single step forward.
Analysis paralysis. We think if we don't have the perfect, flawless, 100-step strategic plan, we can't possibly fix our lives.
But Master Lianchi's life challenges us to completely invert that way of thinking. Here's a man who lost absolutely everything, stripped his life down to a ruined shack, and engaged in the absolute simplest of actions, chanting pursued with unbreakable focus.
Yeah.
And through that extreme simplicity, he accessed the infinite and changed the world.
It is a really powerful reminder that sometimes the most profound transformations don't come from mapping out the entire universe in your head. They come from finding your one true thing, your simplest action, and just executing it with absolute purity of intent.
So what is the cosmic cheat code in your own life that you might be overthinking?
Right.
What is the simple, faithful action you are currently ignoring because you think the solution needs to be as complicated as the problem? Master Lianchi leaves us with the profound reassurance that the password to the universe might just be a single, focused word.
Finally, we have a brief apology and a request. Here at AI Buddhism University, we try our best to minimize the mispronunciation of complex Buddhist terminology, but due to the limitations of AI technology, some occasional errors might slip through. Please forgive us. If you have any advice on how to improve the AI's pronunciation, we would love to borrow your wisdom, so please let us know in the comments. We will continue to cover fascinating topics like biographies of great monks, sutra explanations, and the hidden history of Buddhism, so we are also waiting for your topic requests in the comments. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. We'll see you in the next explanation. Thank you for listening.